So the doom and gloom is certainly not justified because we have been able to change industries in certain applications. And yes, there's more progress to be made, but it's not all bad. I think we do need to realize that we've gone through, a whole journey of the adoption of additive, over time, and that we have actually made great progress in some of the applications that we're powering with additive. I gave the example of the medical industry, earlier today, and whether that's patient-specific devices or standard instrumentation or implants, we have been able to help multiple patients, millions of patients actually, with those devices. And that is something to be proud of. So the doom and gloom is certainly not justified because we have been able to change industries in certain applications. And yes, there's more progress to be made, but it's not all bad. Well, our industry, the additive industry, which as such is not an industry, to be honest, is a very small industry. But the manufacturing market as such is a huge market. So we should concentrate our efforts on conquering that huge market rather than focusing on competing within our small market. And that's what collaboration is all about, using each other's capabilities to create a larger market rather than a small market. And that comes in many different forms and fashions. Here at RAPID, we are announcing the integration of Magics and NTOP as tools, which can help accelerate people and process really large files, implicit files, in a much faster time. So saving, going from days to seconds in processing these files. And that is because of the collaboration and the integration we achieved between our different tools. So that's just one example. So leveraging each other's strengths to create a larger market, help our customers find solutions, reduce the cost of parts, which is what it's all about. And that's why collaboration is so important. If we look at what our customers tell us, what keeps them from adopting additive for end-use parts, there's really three things that we got out of a recent survey that we did. They struggle with the complexity of adopting additive. We're making it really complicated for our customers still. They struggle with the cost. The cost of the part eventually needs to be at a level where it allows our customers to compete. And the third thing they struggle with is the competencies and the skills that they need to adopt additive. Now, those are the barriers that we need to break to accelerate adoption in end-use parts and get serious about scaling in additive. Now, what can be done to achieve that? Obviously, I'm a little biased, but software can play a huge role there, because how do you reduce the complexity? Well, rather than asking people today, as we do today, to upload and download files, let's create an ecosystem, a real digital thread where we transfer the data throughout so that the data can also be used to then do smarter stuff on it to reduce the cost and the efficiencies throughout the process. So software can be a real enabler to bring down the cost, reduce the complexities. And with software, you can also build some of the intelligence you need for the adoption that you otherwise would expect from your skilled labor and your skilled workforce. You can build that into your systems. So again, software can help address all three barriers of the adoption that we face today. We've been, as an industry, in existence for about 40 years, I'd say. So let's look at that history in decades. I would argue that the first decades, we really spent our time and money on figuring out how to make the technology work. We had printers, but that didn't mean that necessarily parts came out of it. So making the technology work was about the first decade of this industry. We then got it to work and spent the second decade in the evolution on finding applications that are meaningful, where this technology could really make a meaningful difference. The medical application that I referred to earlier is one of these examples that we found at that point in time. Great match. We had that. Then we spent the third decade finding out how to make that valuable and how to make sure that people see the value, are willing to pay the value, and with that, build a business model for some companies that is sustainable and that we could all live off. So win-wins for all stakeholders. I would argue that now we're in that fourth decade where we have the technology that works, we have meaningful applications, we found ways to make that valuable, we now need to scale. And that scaling comes through the adoption of additive for end-use parts. Prototyping is a very well-known use case, but the real growth is going to come from these end-use parts. So I feel good and bad about RAPID and the state of the industry and the discussions here. On the one hand, it's great to meet all of our partners and talk about further collaboration, see what we can do together. On the other hand, it's the industry talking to the industry. So, it's good and bad at RAPID, but I'm really pleased to see the attendance being so high because, it's only with people being here that we can network, connect, and talk about collaboration to push the boundaries there.